Howdy, folks. Happy Tuesday. It is, well, it's the middle of August, and it's actually a little chilly in Buffalo today. Chilly for August is 70. Usually it's ridiculously humid and 85 to 90, and I hate those temperatures. So this isn't bad, but it's just a little bit unseasonal. But anyway, we'll start with the pre-show. Go ahead, Russ.
All right, so let's talk a little baseball. Here's where I stand on the unwritten rules in baseball. I do agree that there are some, and I'll give you a good example. What A-Rod did with the "I've got it" thing was one of those things you don't do because that's classless and bad sportsmanship. That was horrible that he did it. Was it to Dallas Braden? I guess he did it.
No, it was against the Blue Jays. He did.
Yeah, it was against the Blue Jays. That's right.
It was Brett Lowry, maybe.
Brett Lowry sounds about right. Yeah, I just thought that was in poor taste. But what Fernando Tatis Jr. did last night, swinging on a 3-0 pitch, that's fine. I mean, I don't care if you're up 15 runs. I was always told if you're in the hitter's box, you hit. And I'll give you a good example, and Jan probably remember this. I remember seeing Dave Kingman hit an intentional walk pitch out of the park because the pitcher threw it close enough to the home plate where he's got such long arms. He hit it out anyhow. You know what? Fine by me.
I mean, to me, it's interesting. So as we've seen recently, big leads don't mean anything anymore. Given how bad bullpens have been, just because you have a 7-run lead, even if it's late, and Russ and I can both attest to this as Met fans, we've seen our team blow late leads at large volume run leads late in games, right? So 7-run lead is not necessarily secure by any stretch of the imagination. To me, what I thought was more interesting was Tatis's manager needed to do a much better job of defending his player and basically sticking up for him. To me, that's where the failure is here. And Johnny Bench came out and said, so wait, so you want me to take a 3-0 pitch? It's going to become 3-1. Then he's going to get you on a 3-1 pitch potentially, make it 3-2, and now you're basically scrambling as opposed to being in a driver's seat. His comment was swing the bat. We've gone from the era of the way baseball – and again, I'm not going back to the old school. Things have changed. Things have changed for certain reasons. But I'm sorry, a 7-run lead – is no guarantee, even if there's 2 innings to go in the way we've seen baseball these days. I have no issue, Tatis. And don't throw, you know what? Don't go to 3-0 count, first of all, and then don't throw him a 3-0 meatball.
Right. What is he supposed to do? Put his hand over his eyes and swing one-handed if they're up by 10 runs? I mean, right now, and we were talking about this before, Russ, the fact that, I know baseball pretty well, and I don't know like 3/4 of the pitchers on the Boston Red Sox. Because they've been devastated by injuries, and B, they're mailing it in. So, there are a lot of sins in baseball this year, and Fernando Tatis swinging at a pitch up 10 runs is not even close to the crap that the Astros pulled or a number of other teams in this league. Give me a friggin' break. And his manager,
but he apologized because of what Jan said and what you're going to say, and that's terrible.
Right. His manager should have backed him. And he didn't, and that's bad on him. But give me a break, really. I honestly think that there are a number of sins that could be called,
and somebody on one of them. And somebody on Twitter found that Chris Woodard once hit the only grand slam of his career while his team was up 6 runs. So there you go.
I mean, look. This is where, unfortunately, at sports at times these days, it's everything has to be defended, everything has to be argued, everything has to have a rationale and a reason. Well, here's a hint. Play the game, and he's playing the game the right way. And even in the unwritten rule of sports today, as we said, leads have become so easily overturned in games, and bullpens have been so watered down that we see leads get lost 5-6 runs. And then Mets yesterday, right? It's 11-4. Franklin Colomé, he's got the bases loaded. They had to get Seth Lugo up. The score was 11-2 going into the night.
Right.
Pretty good indication that nothing is secure anymore.
Yeah, and I do have a problem. Then we'll start the show. I do have a problem with unwritten rules in some sports. And in hockey, the one that comes to mind, and we talked about this many a time, when a player hits another player with a clean check, the need to drop the gloves, basically to come to the defense of a player. Well, honestly, Jordan Stahl yesterday gets walloped on a clean check by Charlie McAvoy. There wasn't a fight afterward, and the only reason there wasn't a fight was because it was the playoffs and they didn't want to take an extra minor. But honestly, why should there be a fight after that hit? It was a clean hit.
Yeah, anytime now in the NHL, anytime anybody does a hip check now, the opposing player wants to fight. And to me, it's crazy.
Well, the interesting part is, the McAvoy check reminded me of the Bergeron hit that he did on Zabinajad, where he did the reverse check. So that's a very typical Bruins move.
There's not a hit that Jam doesn't remember, by the way.
Huh?
I said, there's not a hit that you don't remember. It's like I try and erase these things from my memory bank the minute after we talk about them.
Well, you don't have a lot to remember, so I keep everything in there. You, however, it's a sluice that goes in one side and out the other. Me, not so much.
Well, I remembered something watching that Carolina-Boston game, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But hello, Hockey.
Yeah, Michael had flashbacks. He's still having the DTs right now.
Hello, Hockey World. Today is Tuesday, August 18th, 2020.
I'm Jan Levine, and we need a therapist for Mike and James Reimer.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
Civ. And I'm Michael Agello, and this is the Hockey
Not his fault. It wasn't his fault.
We'll get to it.
Hold on, let me do the intro first. And this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. Okay, we'll start. We'll hold that one off for a second here because I want to start with Tampa Bay and Columbus, which was the early game yesterday. And I have to say, and I'm going to write about this today on Hockey Buzz, the changes that the Tampa Bay Lightning made. I know that a lot of people called Julien Brisebois on the carpet for spending a little too much at the deadline, trading a first-round pick and Nolan Foote to New Jersey for Blake Coleman, trading a first-round pick to San Jose for Barclay Goodrow. But you have to say that those two deals, along with the no-cost addition of Zach Bogosian at the deadline, have really paid dividends for Tampa Bay because unlike last year where they were frustrated, they were emotionally vulnerable after losing a couple games against Columbus and they collapsed in a 4-game sweep. This team, go 5 overtimes, win game 1, then lose game 2, and they've basically beaten Columbus at their own game the last 2 games. And the reason for the game 4 victory, Russ, was that line of Goodrow, Coleman, and Yanni Gourde scoring both goals. And I'm telling you, this shows the importance of strength and sandpaper when it comes to the postseason.
Yeah, that's a good postseason line. Like, that line has everything. It's got skill, it's got grit, it's got speed, it's got annoyance, it's got everything. And to me, that's a big deal. And you're right. That has made a big difference with Tampa. Cooper's the same guy, but clearly the team, had a little bit of an issue with confidence. And there's no question that the GM made sure. And look, I had killed Brisebois in the past for some moves, Gauthier rather, some moves in the past that he hadn't made. And he made all the right moves this time. The price for Goodrow was high, but it was worth it. And
the price for Coleman was high. And they took a guy who was a 20-goal scorer and basically made him into a 4th-line checking player. But they got an extra year of control, which is why they were willing to give up the first rounder, right? And Gourde is one of those guys who just gets under your skin, and he's doing a good job in this series, right? As Mike said, 4th lines. Look at the Islanders' 4th line. We talked about before the series how critical that 4th line is. Tampa Bay's 4th line is doing the same thing here.
Hey, all, can you hear me? Okay, because I'm probably gonna just some driving. I'm probably not gonna have the mic. You won't be able to see my beautiful face for a little bit.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna start driving. I'm just gonna mute my camera. You still hear me? Okay.
Yeah, it's a little distant, but it's okay.
But is this better? I can just talk like this.
Yeah, that's a little better, but that's good. We can hear you.
All right. Okay. All right. I will do my best. Try to make it work. Sorry.
Yeah, even if for a few minutes, it's no.
Continue on. Continue on.
But no, we're
I give Brisebois credit. He did the right thing here. I am not going to give him static for the picks that he gave up. They needed this presence on their team, especially now. It's really brilliant based on the team that they faced in Columbus. Like, that's exactly what they needed against Columbus.
Right, and this is what we're talking about, Ak. Yeah. The additions that Tampa made at the deadline, Coleman, Goodrow, and Bogosian. Bogosian was just a pickup of a UFA at the last minute, and he's played a big role for them, playing on the top pairing with Hedman, and that's. They had Jan Ruta playing with Hedman, and that you don't have to have a great defenseman to play with Hedman because Hedman's so great himself. But as a compliment, if Bogosian can stay healthy, that's a good first pairing to go along with the second pairing of McDonough and Sergachev. Yeah. So that rounds out their top 4, and then this now you've got Coleman and Goodrow on the 3rd line with Yanni Gourde, and they provide enough secondary offense to take a little of the heat off of Braden Point and Kucherov, and when Stamkos comes back off of Stamkos, that they're more multidimensional now than they were last year.
No, I've been really impressed with it. Like I've been extremely impressed with how they've managed to play Columbus's game and win. And I think that's like, to me, that's the enormous thing. Like they're sitting there and they're playing that game, and that's going to take them. That's going to serve them well as far as trying to win a Stanley Cup. It's a typical story you hear about a team that has to learn something. And they had this is what they had to learn. I feel like, and and some of these players helped them play that game. So it's an impressive. It's an impressive. I mean, Columbus is a tough team to knock out. Don't get anyone wrong. This is a really tough team. Yeah. They're doing it. And they're barely doing it, but they're doing it. And this is a team that would give anybody fits. Columbus would give everybody fits in the league. So,
well, I mean,
one of the harder draws.
Right now, through 4 games, the goals in this series are Tampa Bay 9 and Columbus 8. So you can't get much closer to that than that. But Jan, the thing with this series is, Tortorella can't be upset, and I don't think he was yesterday. He notices his team is putting out all the effort that they can. I think he realizes that he's just being outclassed by a team with more talent. And, I know that he was begging basically his core guys like Foligno and Boone Jenner, and to a lesser extent Dubois, because he's produced, for them to kick up their offense. But honestly, Jan, I think that they're all trying. I just think they're not at the same level as the Lightning are.
Well, it was a 2-1 game yesterday. I mean, look, Foligno's not a goal scorer anymore. Jenner's not really a goal scorer anymore, right? You have Atkinson, you have Dubois, the 2 guys, and then obviously it's Werenski and Jones from the blue line.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they still
Bjorkstrand.
Bjorkstrand also, right. And Wenberg had a great move also on the goal, from inside out. But his consistency has been waning at best. I mean, that's part of the issue with him, right? He has the talent, it just doesn't manifest itself all that frequently.
So, I feel like he might be playing Foligno a little bit. I feel like he might be playing Foligno a little bit much. I don't know if anyone else feels that, but I feel like they're overplaying him a bit.
Yeah, I feel like they are too. I agree with you on that. I think because he's a Torts guy, he's replaced Dubinsky as that Torts guy.
Exactly, and he's comfortable with him on offense and defense. He knows he's not going to make mistakes. But when you look at the forwards, even in that 5 overtime game, Foligno played more than anybody else in that game.
Yeah. I think that was a little bit of overcompensation act because Atkinson has not been right. I mean, he scored the only goal yesterday, but I think they used Foligno more because Atkinson was basically MIA the 3 of the last 4 games.
So
but it really puts the pressure on the like the few scorers they have. Like if they're not getting a lot of ice, like I think they need to. I mean, Dubois needs to get a little more ice time, than Foligno. Like to me that's not happening. It's just. There's, that to me,
they're using Dubois a lot, though.
They're using him a lot, but it's not as much as Foligno,
Okay.
But Jan, continue.
So my point on this, though, is that here's the difference this year from last year to this year, right? We've talked a lot about talent. Effort beats talent when talent doesn't play with effort. Tampa Bay has kicked up their game. They are meeting Columbus's effort level and at times superseding that effort level, which is why the talent is shining through. Last year, what happened is they didn't, right? Columbus outplayed them out and played harder than they did. The difference we've seen and probably generated by that 4th line, which is kickstarting that whole team, is that they're playing with a much higher effort level, which is why they're able to beat Columbus even with the greater talent level, because Columbus is playing hard. There's no question they're playing hard. They just don't have the same level of talent that Tampa has, but they're matching out with a compete level that didn't exist last year.
What's weird? Does anybody else feel like this Steven Stamkos thing is getting strange?
No, I think this is just they're doing well without him, so they're not rushing him back. Whatever this might be, I don't know if it's strange. I'm not there yet.
I'm starting to this is. I heard him talking about on XM, and actually I kind of agreed with them, and they were talking about this earlier today. That they said that any injury. I mean, they've already been 3 weeks basically into this thing. If they're going to keep going, there's 6 weeks to go. At any injury that doesn't require surgery, how long is that player going to miss? At some point, I mean, I get it that their Stamkos is not, they're just think they can win the series without him. Is that what you're thinking, Russ?
Or who's to say he didn't? That's part of it. But who's to say he didn't have knee surgery before he went into the bubble?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. We don't know.
Or even if he strained a knee or an ankle, right? It takes weeks, sometimes depending on the level.
Yeah.
You don't need surgery, but it takes weeks to heal, and they're not going to rush him back if they don't need to also.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, actually, you know what? It's Joe Smith's reporting. It's a lower body related to the core surgery, so that's why they're not rushing him back.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know, that was an injury that occurred during, I think it was phase 2.
Yeah.
So it's not something. And remember, I believe he had the same injury in March when they thought, you know, he was going to miss the beginning of the playoffs. If the playoffs started in April.
Correct.
So if you rush him back again, all you do is risk the reoccurrence of it. And if you're operating at a certain level right now, it's better to wait until he's 100%. And maybe he won't be 100%, but maybe it's better to wait until the Stanley Cup final if you get there to bring that guy back.
Yeah, I get that. I do get that. I mean, so let's move on to another series here, and the Boston series, Boston Carolina. I'm just really incredibly impressed with. I mean, this is a typical Boston thing, right? That Boston, everyone counts them out, and suddenly they win. They find a way to win. I mean, the way they won yesterday. I mean, that was a really devastating loss for Carolina yesterday.
No doubt. I mean, you know, Mike has Tourette's about Reimer, and I do agree on some point because that first goal that he gave up to the Bucks definitely opened the door. Now, even if you don't blame the rest on him, he wasn't ever settled after that. Like that unnerved him too. Well,
that's that big momentum playoff goal that we talk about all the time. You know, like that's like the play that you can't give up. You can't give up that. You can't start.
And I said this to Russ earlier. Based on how bad Reimer looked on the other goals, I can understand why he tried to come out and cut off DeBrusk, because God knows he can't stop Marchand on a breakaway or stop DeBrusk on the fourth goal. I mean, so he had to come out and try to challenge DeBrusk and do his best Johnny Bauer imitation.
He's been really good, Mike. Come on, man. You can sit there and say Marsh. I mean, he really has been. I mean, like he hasn't been as good as
he was up to that point. I admit it.
Heck, he has a puck allergy in the third period against Boston. He can't.
All right. Well, there's baggage there. I get that, but I mean, a lot of people give up Marchand on breakaway goals. That's not like, you know, he's good on breakaways.
If I'm the Carolina Hurricanes, I play Mrazek until his fingers are bleeding.
I will tell you this. I think there was something in the scouting there, Eck, because DeBrusk was definitely trying to score on his own one-on-one, and then everybody decided to take on Reimer one-on-one, and I think they figured out that was his biggest weakness, and they exposed it. And I do think that that's good video scouting. I do.
Yeah, I think so too.
That's also poor defense where they allow – I mean, the Marchand goal was a bad goal defensively. The fourth goal was a bad goal defensively. I mean, look, if you're going to make a play like that, like Reimer did, you better get it right, Because in that situation, you get it wrong, this is what happens, and it flipped the game over. But personally, I thought Carolina's defense was non-existent in the third period. The hit by McAvoy on Stoll also changed momentum, because 17 seconds later, Clifton ended up scoring to make it to tie the game, and that changed the whole equation as well, right? So 3 goals in 4:14, 4 and 6:51, and after the Stoll hit, they were a completely different team also, Carolina, scrambling on their own to try to get caught up.
The Funky Cold Zadina, David Ayers was not in the bubble, so he's not eligible.
That's true.
And he only beats Toronto anyway.
But nobody's giving him a chance. We don't know if he could beat somebody else.
No, Mike, to stay with this tone, a nice transition here would be the best ex-Leaf playing in the playoffs right now.
We'll talk about that, because
one more thing with Boston, because I think it's important to note. Early in the series, I said the hardest part I thought Carolina would have is if games were close, holding back Boston's offense. And even without Pasternak, they're having a hard time doing that, and it's not because they have the greatest offense in the league. It's because they know how to ratchet it up at the right time.
Yeah.
They know how to control the puck, and they know how to make it a long shift for those defensemen that are out there. And that's because of the familiarity of them, and they do wear guys down.
Yeah, they believe they can win. That's the bottom line. They believe they can always win. And
they did it. They did it without the support of their goaltender, because Jaro Halak was horrific yesterday.
He was bad.
That's what I was just going to get to. Those 2 goals were not good goals to give up.
He waved at one of them.
Yeah, no, I mean it looked like me playing third base and playing the hot corner in softball. It's like just waving at the line drive.
The Roger Dorn.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Without the bruises all over my chest. But
the Olay.
Yeah, but I mean, it was terrible, and it's a statement for Boston that they were able to overcome that bad performance. Now it's a concern if that's the kind of goaltending they get out of Halak going forward. But yeah. I not to bury anybody before they're dead, but Carolina's dead.
That's also one thing. They're also look. Boston knows about Pasternak. Losing Svechnikov was a huge loss for Carolina. A huge loss for Carolina.
Yeah, that's enormous. Probably their best player, and I'm not their best player, but they're one of their best players for sure. And I mean, obviously, they need him.
He was really physical, so
in a big way. Yeah, he does a lot for them, especially against a team like Boston, like you're saying, Russ. I mean, they need him. I mean, they need him in there. I mean, they say he could actually might be able to play in the next game, which would be shocking.
Yeah, well, are you talking about Stahl?
No, Svechnikov.
Oh no!
I've heard
really?
It was going around the bubble today. The people I were talking to that they said there's a rumor that he's gonna surprise people and play in the next game.
Wow,
crazy.
That'll knock me over with a feather. So I'll wait to see that one. But Stahl skated this morning in Toronto, so he probably will be in for Game 5 if it's a.
I mean, Edmondson and Svechnikov didn't practice today.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I would highly doubt it simply because that at best looked like a high ankle sprain and at worst looked like a broken fibula. Or
hold on. In the crowd, Svechnikov has a boot on.
He has a boot. You didn't see it? Yeah, he was wearing a boot.
I know, but then also
definitely an ankle looked like.
Also, Carolina came out though and said it's not as serious as it looked at all.
That's Russ,
yeah, but
Russ, he's practicing to be Tom Dempsey and with the square toe. All right,
it's impossible. I don't think they should play him though.
Yeah, they. You referenced the performance of former Leaf Nazem Kadri, who scored a couple goals in the Avalanche. Now, let's first preface this by saying the Coyotes were horrendous yesterday, even to the point that their own coach was yelling at them.
Oh, he did more than yelling. I was outside, and so I had the sound off on the game. And when I came in, the sound was off, but they zoomed in on Rick Tocchet, and I was able to lip read exactly what he was saying. And one thing was an effing disgrace. That was And so he is really fed up with these guys with that effort. Now, again, this is what the Avs can do to you, though.
Yeah, this is the best. To me, the most focused team in the playoffs right now. The two most focused teams are the Avalanche and the Islanders. I'll give the Islanders the second most focused team, but the Avalanche are definitely the most focused team, and they're doing like the difference between the Avalanche and everybody else is Avalanches aren't struggling at all with this team. Like everybody else is battling, and the Flyers are they're really battling.
Oh yeah,
just to say in that series.
I think hockey fans are secretly, well, maybe not so secretly, rooting for a Colorado Vegas Western Conference final because that will be a turf war. I mean, it'll be a fantastic.
No, that would be the best. That would be the best game you could get.
It would be. Now, I don't know if you caught this. This was
the
minute that Christian Fischer and Nathan McKinnon were going at it. I think Pierre oversold Kristen Fisher's fighting ability because he was like, he's a powder keg. You don't want to mess with this guy. And McKinnon put him down in like 2 seconds.
I know. I will say this, and I don't mean to knock on the announcers, but I think the Western announcers are just doing a much better job than the Eastern announcers. I mean, when you watch
who's announcing? Seriously?
Yeah.
What was that?
Like a 5-minute mate.
You got Mike Milbury announcing.
It's like having a 5-on-3 every game.
I know, but even Boucher, who I love, is a good friend. I just think that I don't know. I just think that just everybody from Gord Miller on down in the East is not quite up to the level of everybody.
Gord Miller holds his own.
I
don't know. A lot. I mean, really, they shouldn't have these guys doing all these games. I mean, it's really kind of ridiculous. It's like
who else are they going to use? Like you can't. They're not going to hire 15 announcers.
There's so many people out there, Russ. I mean, how many? You want to put incredible announcers all over the country.
You want to put Jack Edwards in on the Bruins game?
Sure. Like, why not?
I mean, you're not calling. Why are you not saying that they should have different PA guys every game? Mike Ross is doing like every game in Toronto.
No, that's fine. But but these guys have to talk about hockey for 7 hours a day, and they're bored as hell. You can tell they have nothing else to say.
Well, they should do more homework then.
Honestly, I have no problem with Forsland. I think Forsland's excellent. Chris Cuthbert is great. Now, I know the Cuthbert's on the Sportsnet broadcast, so I don't know if those are being used as well on NBCSN in the States. Has Emmerich been involved at all?
Yeah, he has been. He has been only like
one game,
NBC game.
days.
Yeah, like the main network.
The main NBC game, right?
Yeah. So I mean, it's a little bit crazy. I mean, to me, and I'm not blaming them even. I'm not a big Millbury fan, but I'm not even blaming them. It's just that's a lot of hockey to do. That's a lot of like.
Yeah, well, please, Ak, I want my color commentator to be more concerned about a dinner date than a 5 overtime game. Give me a friggin' break.
Oh, I know. Believe me, he was horrible.
Job.
No, I know he was horrible, but I mean, and he does seem to want to get out of there all the time. And can he talk down the Blue Jackets' talent any more than he already has? I mean,
he talks down everybody. Like, how do I even know the difference anymore?
Well,
unless it's the Bruins, he talks them down.
Well, the
Blue Jackets have no talent at all. Like every time the Blue Jackets get the puck, they would have scored there if they had any talent at all. He basically says that.
He did refer to number 47 in the Carolina Hurricanes jersey yesterday as James Reimer.
Yeah, he did. And instead of saying Anders Bork, he just called Bork number 10. He goes, number 10 shouldn't even be on that line. And it's like,
right.
Do you even know what player you're talking about?
That's so much like the old that's the old curmudgeon coach, get number 10 out of there.
Number 9,
right?
Number 9?
I don't even want to acknowledge your name.
Oh my God! So anyway, I just think it's too much. I mean, there's plenty of people who could do this. I mean, there's so many great people out there.
Well,
they can do it remotely. Give them a friggin' break. Like, let them do every other game.
Maybe they should do what they should do is like Max Headroom, and they should have it set up as like a Max Headroom.
No, don't worry. Max Headroom's at the Democratic National Convention.
Oh, here we go.
Okay, no, but I have to say this because I'm going to write about this today. Because everybody now is breaking out their pitchforks when it comes to the Leafs and the Nazem Kadri deal.
The
Leafs had to trade.
Yes, I am going to rarely say that Mike is 100% correct on this.
No, he is. Mike's right on this one.
And no, there is no question that they had sometimes you make a trade that Nazem Kadri was never going to do this with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Okay, that's the bottom line. Like and the Leafs knew he was. The Leafs knew he was a good player.
He had too many buddies on the Leafs, and he always felt emboldened to do stupid things there.
Right, and in game 2 against Columbus, Kadri would have found a way to get suspended.
Yeah, I agree.
So they got something for him, and they got. I mean, and honestly, I really don't blame Toronto for this at all. But it is pretty. So let's just forget that it was ever a Leaf for a second and talk about how good the guy's playing. I mean, it's really.
I mean, that's where we talked about the center strength with Colorado, and it's great.
Well, let me just say one thing because Funky in the chat says I always justify Dubas's moves. Here's where I'll attack Dubas, and then we'll get off the Leafs because they're not in the playoffs anymore.
Yeah.
They made the wrong acquisition. They did the right thing in trading Kadri. They got a center who replaced him in Kerfoot, who's not as good, but he's cheaper. And he's a different type of player. But the mistake was they were looking for a defenseman, and they got the wrong type of defenseman in Tyson Barrie. They needed another defenseman along the lines of Jake Muzzin. They didn't need a puck-rushing power play quarterback, and that was the mistake that they made. And Dubas has to own that. I think he is, because the Leafs are not re-signing Tyson Barrie. But anyway, so let's move on from that.
But on to Kadri, he is like frigging impressive right now. He's like Calder impressive right now. I mean, he's doing everything.
Yeah, you mean Conn Smythe.
Conn Smythe, sorry, Conn Smythe. Yeah, Conn Smythe. I mean, he's Conn Smythe impressive now. And honestly, that's the reality is, I mean, when you watch him play, he brings everything. And when you add him to a team that's already so friggin' stacked like that team is, that's the kind of thing that makes them a Stanley Cup, favorite in my mind. They have everything. And to have him on top of it all is just crazy.
People fought me when I was talking preseason about the Avs because everybody was faulting me because of Grubauer. Grubauer's been fine.
He's been okay. We haven't seen him really tested yet, to be honest. I mean,
games doesn't matter.
And that's the thing.
No, he wins, but when he's playing against Vegas, let's see how he does.
That's fine.
I mean, let's remember that the only win that Arizona had in this series was a superhuman effort by Darcy Kemper. So, I mean, I give Colorado all the credit for beating a team that they should beat. But
that's the thing. If they all of a sudden they weren't, then there would be a different narrative too, right?
But here's the thing about that. I mean, you say that, but like every team, there's so much parity in this league that it's hard to do what they're doing against anybody. Like, as good as much, Arizona's not a great team, but at the end of the day, they are one of the top. They are one of the 16.
It's hard to sweep. It is.
It's hard to sweep, and it's hard to just dominate. I mean, and when you're the favorite to dominate too, because you see it in the NHL all the time. Like favorites, everybody picked Colorado to win this in as few amount of games as they could. Everybody knew that was going to happen, but for them to actually dominate the way they're doing is astonishing. I mean, that shows me another level. That shows you a level that they are a serious threat.
Well, the teams that won Stanley Cups in the last decade have shown that they're not satisfied because Boston's up 3-1 over Carolina.
Yes,
and the Blues bounced back yesterday with Jake Allen in goal, which surprises me as much as anybody, with a 3-1 win over the Canucks to tie the series 2-2. And in the second period, when they scored 2 of their 3 goals, they outshot the Canucks 17-5.
Yeah.
Really, they shut down the Canucks compared to the way that they were flying around in the first 2 games. So
the Blues. Listen, my theory about this, and I do think part of what what teams have to do to break that, what I was saying, that malaise of like, you were really going to win it again, is to have some kind of weird other story that you can grab onto, right? And that, I mean, let's not forget the Blues were 1 goal away from being down 3-0 in this series. They were in a.
Yeah, but once the opportunity opens up for a team like that and they don't blow it, it's hard to get it back. The one thing I'm going to say is,
hold on,
we'll put I'll mute.
Yeah, you can't put Quinn Hughes in there for 28 minutes.
No,
Pietrangelo only played like 23 minutes. You're asking now a guy to play 28 minutes, all the power play. It's too much, and I get it. Their defense isn't good. But you know what? That still doesn't mean you should try and run him into the ground. That's not going to help you. The Blues are in the spot, and I told Mike this off air, where Berube is now back to just giving you matter-of-factly answers because he sees that his team has responded. The Canucks gave him that little bit of opening, and this is where the Canucks are going to have a hard time wrestling this series back, even though they're leading. Because, again, St. Louis has been here before, and they believe they can win now. And even with Tarasenko not being there, they can win without Tarasenko.
Well, the guy that's been carrying him has been Ryan O'Reilly. I mean, O'Reilly has taken the game to a whole nother level this series, or a level where he was the latter part of last year. He's been phenomenal. And Jake Allen is the St. Louis version of James Reimer and Michael Jello, because I know Mike is not a big fan. But look, I've had Allen in my leagues, and he's been very disappointing. He's been a major reason why they hadn't advanced in years past, and last year was Binnington.
But the team believes in him. That they really do.
And Allen has been great. Allen has been great in these 2 wins so far, and you roll with him.
I apologize
until he gives you a reason not to roll with him. So Game 5, you're putting Allen between the pipes all over again because the team is playing with confidence behind him. And if you look at if O'Reilly and Chen play the way they have, I don't know if Vancouver's going to win the series because both of those guys have just been unconscious the last 2 games.
Well, I mean, one of the things I think is a key for Vancouver is the fact Tyler Myers was not in the game yesterday. Jordy Ben, and I know Myers got hurt. I don't know about Ben, whether that was a lineup decision or he's been injured as well. But those are 2 big guys on the blue line against a big physical Blues team, and instead they have Oscar Fantenberg and Troy Stetcher in there, and they got manhandled. And that they're not as deep a team as the Blues, and the Blues play that physical style that we know that how they played last year. And I think it's caught up to Vancouver. And if Ben and Myers can't get back in the lineup, then they're in deep trouble.
Yeah, I mean, and this is the first game Barbashev's played, but I agree that he is a part of their physical team. When he's out there, he's hitting guys, man, and he's fast. So I think that's an important guy to have in there.
They're getting the boost from Allen.
Yep.
Yeah, they're getting the boost from Allen. Which to me is the story now, right? They have a different goalie in. These teams don't need a lot, but they need something to kind of grab onto. You know what I mean? Like for the Flyers, I think Lindblom is a thing. That it really is a thing for Montreal. Obviously, their coach is a thing. These are things that happen. That really in this kind of in every playoff they matter, but in a playoff like this where everybody's living together, I think they matter even more. I really do, and I think they do.
I don't think we've seen the last of Binnington. They may stick with Allen as long as he's winning, but I have a feeling that he has one bad game that Binnington's back in there, because you can't ignore the fact that he carried them through the playoffs last year. Now,
here's a good quote that Jake Allen said, and this is what I felt like Vancouver had to be afraid of. He said, "Our team's building in the right direction," and it's true. You see now that St. Louis is looking more like the St. Louis team that they should have been playing like. And now this is a challenge for the Canucks. They have to win this game. They don't win this game, they lose the series.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I'm part of me is actually really happy for Jake Allen. Like, I mean,
he's a good guy. I agree with that. He's a good
guy, and he's been a great regular season goalie, and he's been a horrible playoff goalie, and he'll be the first to admit that. And then it kind of sucks for him that like suddenly Binnington comes in and they win a friggin' Stanley Cup for all the years that Allen was, carrying that team, but not able to carry them over. I'm just happy. It's nice to see him get this opportunity. To me, like, I think that this is cool, and he gets this chance to actually. This is like really like movie type stuff to me. Like, it's the final redemption for him. Like in a lot of ways, it's pretty cool.
All right, so let's move to the games today. The first one at 3:00 is Flyers Canadiens.
This is the most boring series I've ever watched.
Thank you.
There's no question about that.
I mean, and I'm a Flyers fan. These games are just they're hard to watch.
But you know what? Even though they lost in game 3, that game was played on like Montreal's turf. But Flyers won that game, even though they were playing the game that Montreal feels that they have to play to be able to win.
Vigneault has decided that he's going to play Montreal style.
Yeah, but this is risky too, Ek, because they're not going to win every game 1-0. There were a few posts, and there were a few moments where that game could have turned too.
It's incredibly risky, Russ. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. It's like this is not what they should be doing in this series. I mean, and the bottom line is they are really giving Montreal way too much credit. And, at the same time, Montreal is just, I'm going to say this in like two different ways. The Flyers are giving them too much credit, but Montreal does deserve credit from us, like from the people watching the game, for what they're doing, because they are definitely playing together as a team. They're playing well. Like Kotkaniemi's coming into his own right in front of us. Like that's.
Oh, there's no question about that. Yeah,
he's becoming a star player. I mean, what Montreal's getting out of this is still will forever say better than the Frenier would have been. But what they're getting out of this is amazing, because they're really completely and utterly, and I know everyone's going to disagree with that, but the connection that they have with each other and the way they are bonding over this, it's pretty intense. And they are very close to being, I mean, they could win this series. This series is a toss-up right now.
Talk to me in February when they can't score goals again. If they don't make any significant free agent additions, and Kotkaniemi has got
something like this helps them make. This is not a team, Mike, that people don't want to go to if they're playing well. Like
sure they don't, because of the taxes and because of the pressure.
Two things instead of arguing about the taxes in Montreal. They definitely need to move Giroux back to the other side on the power play. Just do it. I know they liked him on that side for most of the year, but it's not working now. And by the way, nothing's really working for Giroux other than that goal that Voracek scored, which was a fluky goal anyhow. He's got 2 points. That's it. He doesn't have.
What is Michel Therrien doing, kids? I mean, I don't like him.
I don't know what he's doing.
He is their power play coach, and like this is like they are not changing anything they're doing. And
I know.
Crying out loud. How many slingshot players do they need to get from their own team to the other from their own blue line to the other blue line?
He's their power play coach, and the guy that you signed as a power play specialist, who you're paying $7 million a year, who's under contract for another 3 years, may be a healthy scratch today.
Well, who's that? Who are we talking
Van
about?
Riemsdyk.
Oh, Van Riemsdyk. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah, well, but Van Riemsdyk is not going to score for you playing in that position he's playing in right now.
That's sure as hell not going to score for you.
He's got to score some way, otherwise, why play him? And he's not playing today.
No, so. I agree. He shouldn't be playing. I would put Farabee in there ahead of him right now, no questions asked. Because I mean, Van Riemsdyk is a specialty type player, and you're not. And but their power play is so freaking painful to watch, and it's just, I mean, Montreal sucks too. But
there is another worry too, Ek. We see that Grant's had a little bit of struggles, and Thompson, as good as he's playing, he's getting worn down physically. Like he's one of their few physical players, and he is taking a beating.
Well, this is a tough thing. This is a battle. This is this whole thing is definitely, if you weren't, we're starting to see now who really was in shape and who wasn't in shape through the quarantine. You're seeing on a lot of teams. There's a lot of players that are starting to look like they're losing it because only, adrenaline's only going to take them so far. And,
That's true.
What we're seeing now is, who knows what Grant did during the quarantine, or, because he looked amazing when he came into Philly with his first shot of adrenaline, and then, looked okay a little bit in the beginning of this bubble, but really, yeah, he's fallen off the map too. I mean, I think Farabee's energy is needed on that team. I'd get him back in there.
People are asking about Gostisbehere in the chat room. We're not going to see him anymore this series unless there's an injury.
I don't think you can, because the series has decided to become a 0-0-1-1.
Right. You can't have him in there for that.
And you can't put Ghost in a series like that. Like this, if they're playing in a series, like the Dallas-Calgary series or what have you, then Gostisbehere would be a very important player. But in this situation, Hag's just he's better for you. I mean, he's better for them, and it makes sense that they're playing him in there. I mean, Carter Hart has been remarkable.
Yeah, he's been great
for sure. Montreal also doesn't have a lot of sharpshooters, for sure. No. Like a lot, they are hitting the post on the poster.
Actually, Tatar may be their best sniper, which is crazy.
Right, but when you watch, I mean, Carter Hart's making some great saves, but he's also getting hit with a lot of pucks, like really just a lot of pucks that are, they have beautiful opportunities and will miss, and they don't have that. That's not what they have. But at the end of the day, if you're playing this kind of game with Carey Price in there, you can win any series, and this is what they're doing.
Again, a team can't win when 50% of their offense is Jeff Petrie and Shea Weber.
Hold on, I got to call out the hockey news on this. This headline is awful. Carey Price has proven his worth against the Flyers. Now it's time for Montreal's biggest stars to step up. Well, Shea Weber has. They don't have anybody else that's a big star.
Who? Who's their biggest star?
Like
Paul Byron?
Endless. We're going to get stuck in an endless loop there, Russ. Because if Carey Price has proven his worth, now it's time for their biggest star is Carey Price, which is Carey Price, in my opinion, to step up.
Carey Price and Shea Weber. There's no other big stars.
There's nobody else in there. I know. And Shea Weber has done fine. For Shea Weber, he's done better.
He's been good.
Russ,
yeah, for his age and what we thought we had, he's been great.
Russ, they need Alexander Romanov to step up.
Yeah. He's in the bubble. Could they put him in with a different jersey?
Yeah. He can be Nicholas Romanov.
I don't know. Yeah, there's issues there.
No, just give him somebody else's jersey that's on the team already.
You're cutting in and out.
I don't know if you can hear me because I don't fade in and out here, but yeah, I'll just say if you can hear me or not. Can you hear me at all?
Yeah.
Today is the biggest game of the season for the Flyers. I'm going to tell you that, right?
I don't think they've played their biggest game yet.
Yeah. If they don't win today, if the Flyers lose today, and then they have to come back right again tomorrow, this series gets really scary for them. They have to win this game, in my mind.
The only thing I'd worry about with this 3:00 start today, with them playing so hard last game, is this going to be like one of those noon games on Sunday with them, the way they start?
The only thing I'm worried about is the fact that Mike Milbury
is historically a bad afternoon team.
The only thing I'm worried about is that Mike Milbury will be bored by this.
I'm going to get going, guys, because I'm bad. I'm coming in and out here.
Okay.
I'm get going.
All right. Sounds good. Okay. So, all right. The other games today.
By the way, I can't tell you how many texts I've gotten about Mike Milbury.
I know.
Were any of them positive?
No.
Okay. Just making sure.
I mean, we talk about him, and maybe that's what NBC wants, but just the misinformation, the not seeming like he wants to be there at times, the archaic takes, and there are some really archaic takes.
Well, the funny thing is that the thing that raised the most ire, and Elliot Friedman, who worked with Milbury on Hockey Night in Canada, says that the Space Needle reference was a complete and utter troll job. That he was, of course, he knows it's the CN Tower because he's been in Toronto so many times, but he did it just as a troll job. But it's like it's not that. It's the fact that he was basically yawning during a 5 overtime game.
Right.
That's and I don't know. Anyway, it's not worth talking anymore. Okay. The other 3 games, the one that has the most drama, I would say, is Calgary-Dallas, Game 5, series tied 2 games apiece. Russ, it sounds like Ben Bishop is done for the series because he's doubtful today. They went with Khudobin in games 3 and 4. I think they're probably going to get stuck going with him the rest of the series. I mean, I'm saying stuck because I think he's an average goaltender, and I think their chances would be a lot better if Bishop was in there. But Bishop even in that game that he did play, looked at less than 100%. So they're going to go with the completely healthy goalie in Khudobin, and that gives Calgary a chance.
Yeah, there's no question it gives them a chance. You know, the best analogy I can give on this one is when you're starting the World Series and you have to start with like your number 3 starter. That's what Dallas is essentially doing here. Khudobin makes some good saves. He doesn't do anything outstanding, and a lot of times he'll give up a barrage of goals. He'll give up a couple in a row, and that could kill you. And Dallas is going to have to score it. Like if Pavelski is back to being Pavelski, which it looks like, that's a big help. Tyler Seguin still hasn't stepped up really enough. He really hasn't, and we'll see. We'll see what else. I mean, Heiskanen started off great. I don't know if he's been playing the same level all the way through. Calgary, look, Calgary's got a big chance here. And Calgary guys need to step up too. It can't be all on the Lucic line with Dubé. That can't be it. Like the Monahan line has to take over a game. And if they take over this game, they'll win this game. And if they win this game, they're going to win the series.
Jan, I think the big thing here is Tkachuk probably will not be in there today. They haven't really updated the information specifically about what was going on, but I have a feeling it's concussion protocol because he said
concussion protocol. That's what they're all saying.
Oh, they did say, okay, good. So
I mean, they didn't say it officially, but yes.
Right, but if that's the case, then he's out for at least a week, which means the rest
6 days, which I think he could play the next game.
Yeah, well, it was game 2 that he got hurt, I believe. So,
and there's probably been 1 day in between, so I think he could play the next game.
So maybe he plays. Maybe he plays in a game 7. But that being said, Russ is right. Their best line has been Dubé, Bennett, and Lucic.
Yep.
I don't think they're getting. There was a number of opportunities where Gaudreau missed in overtime on Khudobin. Dallas is getting a lot out of their blue line. Klingberg is scoring. Heiskanen scored early in the series. And I think the guys, secondary guys like Pavelski are carrying the weight, whereas Ben and Radulov and Seguin aren't doing as much. But this is a really even series.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, it's been an even series. I mean, the key we thought is Dallas had the edge of goaltending when Bishop was going to be between the pipes, and that's now been obviated with Khudobin, who's good, but clearly not at the Bishop level. I mean, the thing, we saw in the play-in round what we got out of Lucic, and we didn't expect that, and he's kind of continued it here. B, the other surprising factor has been that Bennett has been such a weapon. I thought Gaudreau actually had a good game. He just couldn't score.
Right.
He put himself in positions, which is something that seemed to be lacking during the year at times, but he was going into dirty areas. He was finding open space, and more importantly, what I saw, he wanted the puck. I mean, that was the difference where I really saw. He really was attacking and attempting to get the puck. Granted, he didn't finish, but if he continues to put himself in positions to score, which is something that's been an issue in the past, I think eventually he's going to break through. I mean, look, Calgary had a brutal loss. There's no other way. There's no way to sugarcoat it. To lose a lead with 12 seconds to go in a game where you really thought that they had it sewn up in a 3-1 lead, to me, this is a major test for them psychologically as to how they recover today. And not having Tkachuk, who could be a physical presence, hurts them also because he could turn the game in just a shift with his physical presence, but it's lacking in this contest.
Well, we got 8 minutes for 2 series, Mike. We got to talk about them.
Well, I was going to start with this. What team that has lost 3 games has a better chance of extending the series tonight? The Capitals or the Blackhawks? I'm going to say the Blackhawks because
I'll say the Blackhawks.
The way the Capitals have looked, and we'll go to that series. The way the Capitals have looked through 3 games, and I will grant you, they don't have a plan B option in Samsonov. They don't. Carlson is not 100%. Backstrom is skating today, but he's been out the first the games 2 through 4. They don't look like they're even. They look like the team that Eck was talking about, a team that is disinterested.
Well, I mean, yeah, without Backstrom, it does hurt them, but Holtby did play really well last game too. At the end of the day, if I'm the Islanders, I try and get the lead. I sit on the lead. I try not to get hurt because the Capitals are going to be very dirty in this game. If they go down 2-3 goals, they're going to be extremely dirty because they're frustrated already.
Watch out for Tom Wilson.
More than Wilson, Ovechkin, a whole bunch of them. Oshie, they're all going to be dirty.
Jan, what do you think?
I agree. I mean, the Islanders have squeezed the life out of that team, and Washington hasn't upped their level of play. It's not Holtby. I don't think Holtby's been a problem at all this series. I think he's actually played fairly well. Varlamov has just been great, and I don't think Washington has put themselves in positions to really carry the play. They've been more reactive than proactive in terms of forcing the action. They've let the Islanders dictate style, as opposed to Washington trying to dictate style.
Now, the big question for the other game, the Blackhawks and Golden Knights, is whether Robin Lehner will be in goal or whether it'll be Marc-Andre Fleury. I would think that they would stick with Lehner, but I don't know. What do you guys think?
It's a good question. I'm going to guess that they're going with Lehner. I'm going to guess that they're happy that they have Fleury, but they feel like maybe Leonard's just that little extra better than him. And I'm going to say that that's the case. But either way, they're in pretty good shape. They just have to, again, they're another team, get the lead on Chicago. Chicago plays a lot different when they're playing from behind. They don't get as chancy on offense. Yes, they're going to still put a lot of shots up, but when they have a lead, they try and bury a team, and you don't want to be on the other end of that.
So for Chicago to win, Corey Crawford needs to put in another Darcy Kemper-like performance. Pretty much. I mean, that's the reason why they won, and that's, I think, what Arizona was hoping for yesterday. I just think Vegas has got – look, Chicago's got talent offensively. I think they have more talent than we even thought of when the series started based upon what we've seen so far. I just think Vegas is just too good. I think sooner or later Crawford is going to break from the weight of having to carry so much of keeping this team in the game that he's just not going to be able to do that. And Vegas will find a way, I think, to get a win tonight. I think the Blackhawks have a shot, and I agree with you. I think they have a better shot than Washington does tonight to extend the series.
Okay, this is interesting. I heard one part of this on Toronto radio a couple days ago, and this one I just saw the headline. And obviously, all the games being in Toronto opens up the city of Toronto to troll jobs from fans of other teams, especially since the Leafs took their traditional early exit. Apparently, a rather rich Habs fan decided to buy a billboard in Toronto, and I think it was either "Let's Go Habs" or "This is Habs Country" at the billboard. Now, this one I just saw. Islanders fans have raised over $4,000 to fly a plane over Toronto that reads "Let's Go Islanders."
Listen, I got to say the one thing about Islander fans. They like the flying of the plane thing, and I think that goes back to the Jones Beach days. Anytime you're at Jones Beach, that's like the #1 way to advertise, and I think the Islander fans have stuck with that. Jet fans sort of stick with that too, because a lot of Jet fans are Islander fans, so they like the flyover. They do.
Yeah, I'm surprised it didn't have an "F.U. John Tavares" trailer on it as well. But it's like learn to let it go, Islanders fans. You're second-class citizens. Yeah,
but look, if the Islanders raised $4,000, that's like raising like $7,000 in Canada, so they can get a better pilot.
Yeah, they're second. I was going to finish. They're second class.
Nice, Russ. Just throw our neighbors to the north under the bus. Thanks. Good job.
I was just
public American over here.
They're second-class citizens in their own city because of the New York Islanders, and they're not even a pimple on the fanny of the New York Rangers in that area. So
actually, Nicholas McKinnon brings up a good point. He goes, "Good job, Owls. No one is outside, so no one will see it." That is a fair point.
Oh boy. So okay. So honestly, I think that the only series remaining right now of any kind of I think there are two series right now that have intrigue: St. Louis, Vancouver, and Calgary, Dallas. The rest of them,
yeah.
Wow, pick the two series that are 2-2, Mike.
Well, but that's the reason that they have intrigue.
That's analysis that brings them back.
Still intrigue in the Flyers one, even though it's boring. But I do, before we get out, I do want to say congrats to the NHL. Over 5,000 tests, no positives. That's really tremendous. And soon the families are going to be able to come into the bubble, which, again, it just shows them and the NBA have it right.
Yeah,
and Major League Baseball is looking into what the NHL did, considering they may use a bubble for the playoffs.
I know.
They're trying to make it after what the NHL has done. So
yeah, and what the hell is the NFL going to do?
September 10th, I don't think they're going to start on time. I really don't. I will tell you this. Here's my prediction. If they start on September 10th, having only a couple scrimmages, watch out for the amount of injuries that first week. No scrimmages, no preseason. Look, I know people don't love. No, they are having scrimmages. They're starting to do that.
But preseason games are a necessary evil to a certain extent.
Yes,
because it gets guys used to the hitting and gets guys used to the contact, and also guys who have an outside shot at making the roster now have no shot at all.
Well,
yeah, like Funky said, the CFL was canceled. Yeah, that's
and the reason it was canceled is because I think their TV contract has about 3 million Canadian, whereas the NFL is billions of dollars. So the NFL will forge forward even if players are dropping.
Then why didn't The Rock buy the CFL instead?
On that note,
yeah, it's tough. It's tough to follow that up. Yeah. Except Joe Morello says, "Hey, Mike, say hi to JT for me." Oh boy. Okay.
He's back in Oakwood.
Yes,
Oakville, sorry.
Oakville. For the departed Eklund, for Jan Levine, for Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thanks for watching, and remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.